Welcome to A Quest for Metal and another ranking video where we're going depressing and dark. I'm going to be ranking My Dying Bride's albums from my least favourite all the way to my favourite. Now, they have a lot of albums, a lot of good albums, some not so good as others, but most of the discography is pretty solid. And they're one of the Peaceful Trio, one of the best kind of melancholic, dreary, doomy bands out there. And the vocals, it took me a while to get into. I was a bit like, But then, it grows new and grows new, and the kind of pained vocals he has just works really well with the sorrowful music. So, yeah, let's dive into it, let's rank them, and let's see if we agree on the top pick. So, let's go. So yeah, before I get into the actual list, pop down below what's your ranking for My Dying Bride. Do you love them? Do you hate them? And let's get started with last place, which I always forget the actual decimal point on this one, so you know what it's going to be. 34.788% complete, with dots in the middle. Right, this one feels a lot strange compared to the rest of the discography. It is like the most experimental album. Sounds kind of new metal-y and industrial at parts. Not really the My Dying Bride sound that you come to expect from the guys. When you get into the albums, because I got into them through Turn Loose the Swans, and that kind of early era, but then it gets to this and I was like, whoa, this is a bit strange. And a lot of these bands do that. I mean, Paradise Lost did that. But their albums, like Host and stuff, way better than this. I actually had them quite high in the list because I thought they were quite good. This one doesn't do anything for me, so it's coming last. Next up, second to last, is Avinta, which is more of like a compilation-y kind of album. It's like triple disc. It's so long and overdrawn, and it doesn't feel like a My Dying Bride album. It doesn't, it's lacking the whole kind of like band with it. Yeah, there's something about this album, it's just drawn out, long. I wanted to put this one last, but I would rather listen to it than the more experimental album, so it's only coming second to last, but still, not a big fan. Right, so we're getting into the stuff that I actually enjoy now, and next is For Lies I Sire, which is an actual really good song. So from here on out, I really enjoy them. So the placings were quite hard, and this may be some people's favourites. For me, it's come a bit lower on the list, but it still has that kind of impact. I just think on this one, there's like a handful of great songs, but then the rest of it is pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty good. So I feel like as a whole package, it's more like selection of songs with this album, which is why it's coming lower. Next up is like Gods of the Sun, which is, an older album. It's more a classic kind of sounding style of the band, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it is not as memorable as a lot of the other albums. But the title track is fantastic. I love that. It's probably one of the best My Dying Bride songs. A lot of the others are great as well, but I always forget this album. This is one of the albums I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, that exists. It's great, and when I put it on, I have a good time, but lasting impact, not quite for me, but still really enjoyed it, so, I'll still give it praise. Next up, another one in the same kind of line that I always forget, is The Light at the End of the World, which is actually quite a beautiful album. I do love this one, like, a bit more, but it still runs into that kind of, like, mid My Dying Bride tier. Nothing bad, nothing spectacular, just pretty average, pretty good. It's pretty good. Next one's probably a surprise. Ghost of Orion, the latest album by the band. And this one, I feel like is a bit of a letdown from the previous one. I still love it, but I feel like it was a bit of a letdown. I do love the songs, dedicated to his daughter. And I do love Your Broken Shore, which is crushingly heavy. His vocal delivery on that, insane. So yeah, there are standout songs in it, but I just feel it's a bit weaker to the album that came before it, which was Field of Misery, which is next. I love the art on this one. It's kind of like painted, like window kind of style, which you'd expect to see in like a chapel. Love it, and I feel like this is just better than Ghost of Orion. The songs on here hit harder. Maybe it's because I heard this one first, but even then, a lot of bands, I hear an album like, say, like Rammstein's album. I heard the self-titled, and I was like, and then I heard Zeit, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing, even though it came after, so I can't really give that excuse, but I just feel like Field of Misery has better songs, better emotion, and just better overall, so yeah, it's coming higher. Next up was the debut, As the Flower Withers, which is a fantastic album. Some people have this lower down. Me, I love it. Death growls, proper like death doomy all throughout. The growls on here is what makes it stand out from the rest. Because on the others, it's kind of like mixed in with the clean. Here, it's just full force in your face. Heaviest, well, one of the heaviest albums they've done. Pretty much kind of like, you know, the early Catatonia, early Anathema, just pure death doom glory. And I love it, which is why it's coming high. Now for the actual heaviest album, a line of Deathless Kings. This is heavy as shit for the newer style of My Dying Bride. The riffs in here, crushing, every song headbangable. It's probably the heaviest, probably the most metal My Dying Bride album, which is why it's coming pretty high, because I love that kind of stuff. You know, if you're going to love this one, if I was going to choose someone who's mainly into like death metal and pretty much heavy doom metal, I'd pick this one. I'd say start with this album, A Line of Deathless Kings. Really fast, really energetic, and just really goddamn good. Next up is The Dreadful Hours, which now we're getting into the territory of My Dying Brides where they're all flawless. This is one of them. The only thing that's not flawless about this one is the art, which is awful. It's one of the worst arts in existence, almost as bad as the experimental album. Almost as bad, but I think this might be worse because the colours just don't fit. But that aside, the music, so sorrowful. You could mix this, you could swap this with some of the classics, and you'd be right. This could be number 1, this could be number 2. For me, it's only here, but it's still one of the essential listens, and you still need to have it in your collection. Next up is a map of all our failures, which is beautiful. It's probably his best vocal performance out of all the albums. Probably his best vocal performance. He sings his heart out on this one, and it kind of comes through. You know, it makes you really enjoy the album. And the opener just sets the stage for the rest of the album, and it just carries on and carries on. The momentum all throughout. One of the greatest My Dying Bride albums, and it's coming here. So, top 3 now. Number 3, The Angel on the Dark River. That's right, a classic. Almost as good as Turn Loose the Swans. Almost. It's hard to beat, you know, it's hard to beat, but this one comes very, very close, and I could swap it for that. Could. Because it is pretty much on par with that album. They're both phenomenal Death Doom albums, essential listens for fans of the genre, and on certain days I might have it higher. Today, I'm going to go with what I listened to first. So number 2, here's the shocker. Turn Loose the Swans. That's right, I know, the essential, the one that I tell people to listen to, the one that everyone listens to, that says it's the best Death Doom album, the best Doom album I've ever made. And objectively, they're right. But for me, I prefer another one. But yeah, this is like the quintessential album that you have to listen to. It's like, you know, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, Number of the Beast. It's those kind of essential albums. If you're into Doom, Turn Loose the Swans. Essential listening. It's amazing from start to finish. It's sorrowful from start to finish. But it's not my favourite. My favourite is Songs of Darkness, Words of Light. It's probably the most depressing album they've done. Probably the most sorrowful, most meaningful. Could be slow in times, sure. Some people say that maybe it's a bit too slow. I say, beautiful. The word is beauty on this album. And there's also beast, because it's, you know, it's with the growls as well. Yeah, this is the best. This is the best for me. Easily. Say what you will. Turn Loose the Swans is great. That's why it's number 2. Almost number 1. But this, for me, has always been my favourite. Ever since I saw the art, I was like, yeah, this one's going to be my favourite. But yeah, music-wise, it is the most dark, bleak, and depressing. And it's my favourite My Dying Bride album. So let me know down below, what's your favourite My Dying Bride album? Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Are you annoyed that Turn Loose isn't number 1? Let me know down below, and we'll see you again on another Quest for Metal.